Hello and welcome to episode 162 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we are a source for Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right, just a couple of regular guys drinking some irregular beers and talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular, the online client MTG Arena.
That is right. This episode is a little bit different than our other ones. We'll get into that very shortly. But tonight we're talking about the new set, Modern Horizons 3. Oh boy, I've been having a good time with this set. So we're going to get into that very shortly. But Jeff, each week we drink a beer. We rate it on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. So with that, what is on tap this week?
All right, this week we have a beer that I've never tried before, and I'm really excited to give it a go, and it's
Mhm.
Guinness.
Whoa!
Whoa, that's
Guinness?
right. Guinness. It's a stout, I believe it says it's from Dublin, Ireland. Wow,
Hmm.
that's pretty cool. And yeah, the cool thing about this one, reason I actually have not ever tried what is currently in my hand, this is Guinness Zero. So
Hmm.
it is non-alcoholic, claims to have less than half half a percent,
Yes.
0.05%. So uh, less than a 20th of a percent. That's pretty cool. And the reason for that is that I'm expecting the birth of my second son pretty much any day now.
Hell
So
yeah.
last time we did this, we switched to non-alcoholic beer, and my son decided to start coming on at 1 in the morning, and so that night I had to drive to the hospital, and so I was glad that we did the non-alcoholic beers. I'm not saying it's gonna happen tonight, but
I'm saying, I'm saying it's gonna happen tonight.
yeah, let's be safe. I may be
Yeah.
driving tonight at 1 in the morning. So
Yes, to the hospital with your
yeah,
wife and your child and
yeah,
your other child.
man.
Whew. Wow, it's crazy to think that we started the podcast when you didn't have any
I
children.
had no children. I know.
Yeah, it's insane. Um,
That's why we were doing 3 beers.
Yeah. And now we're doing non-alcoholic ones.
Yeah,
We'll
that's
be
right.
doing some of these, going through some cool non-alcoholic options. Because hey, every once in a while you need a night to take a break, or you got a DD for your friends or whatever. So hey, all these beers need ratings as well. Might as well try them.
Yeah,
So
I'm excited
we're
for this one because Guinness
Mhm.
is something I know pretty well. Like I have that taste kind of locked in.
Okay.
Usually when I'm trying one of these, it's like, what is it kind of supposed to taste like? I don't know. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
but this one I do have a benchmark for it.
So
So
I will say I've had this one before. I think this one is pretty good from my memory.
okay.
But it obviously won't taste just like Guinness, but
Hmm.
I'm excited to see what
Disappointed.
your thoughts are. All right, here we go. Sounds like a Guinness in a can.
Yeah.
Yep.
Does
Anyway,
it have the
as
thingy inside?
it sure does. It's got the
Wow, that's
thingy.
cool. I
Yeah.
was like, I think I can hear that. I don't want to shake it
Hmm.
too vigorously.
Yeah, it's still on nitro. It's still a nitro beer, right?
Love it.
So you gotta have the same mouthfeel and all that. Like look at this.
It looks
How
like a Guinness.
this is a Guinness, right?
Yeah,
This looks like a
it
Guinness.
looks like a Guinness.
Yeah. Anyway, with that, we have some magic news. The only thing that's exciting that happened is Modern Horizons 3 came out, and it is the best set ever.
Whoa.
I don't know. I've been having a lot of fun with it, so that's how
Yeah,
I feel at the moment.
Zach's been
Um,
crushing it.
yeah, I don't want to say that I haven't been doing super well, but it's been a lot of fun. I've been streaming it the last few days, and we've just been having a good time crushing. Yeah. It's been good.
Nice.
But Jeff, I want to know what you think. How's the sec been going for you?
I haven't been able to play it a ton. Just came out
Hmm.
a few days ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Done. Let's say 1.5 drafts because one of them's kind of pending in my account at the moment.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've played enough. Let's say I feel like I made some mistakes last week. Just I've played with some of the cards that I picked, and I was like, this one was
Hmm.
not the right. This one
Ah.
wasn't a winner. But more on that later, I guess.
Yes, we get to talk about that. As always, this is the beginning of the set, so this is our first sips episode. It's our first sips or first thoughts of the new set. Last week we did our Pack Zero Pick One challenge, which was basically before the set is even happening. We picked eight common cards that we thought were going to be the winningest on 17lands.com, which is a data science website all about Magic Limited. And well, we got some results back. I don't know if we want to jump right into this. Let's do some overarching things before we get right into the numbers, because
Yeah,
well, you're more of a numbers guy than I am, just in general. So they don't always make sense to me necessarily. So I got to start soft and then slowly work my way into it.
let's do it.
Um, but I will say overall, Modern Horizons 3 is really cool. I can't stop finding new ways that my cards work together in cool synergies.
Hmm.
Like I'll build the deck and be like, this card just keeps going around. Like nobody wants it. And then I pick it up and I'm like, oh, holy shit, this is exactly what I wanted for my deck. Like I didn't even think about the fact that this would be really good with a bunch of the different mechanics that are going on.
Yeah.
Because there are so many different mechanics in the set. Like you always can find a little weird corner case for something. Most recently, today I was playing like a black white deck, and so I had black white as a archetype, like all together is not the strongest. I think it's
Okay.
supposed to be like a sacrificey kind of thing, but I ended up building a deck that wasn't really super sacrificey, but it was a lot of recursion stuff. So I had Obstinate Gargoyle, which is like the common white black signpost thing, the common one. And it's a 2/2 and it has persist. So when it dies, it comes back with a -1/-1 counter on it. And anytime it's modified, it has flying. So the deck has a bunch of modified things. You put counters on it. The point is that you like have this creature that comes back when it dies, but then it has a -1/-1 counter on it. So you want to put a +1/+1 counter on it so you can keep doing this over and over again. But
Yeah.
the thing that ended up being really fun is that I had Nesting Grounds, which Nesting Grounds is a land from a commander product. It doesn't produce any colored mana, only colorless mana. But what it does, it has an ability that says you can tap one of any color and tap it to remove a counter from target permanent you control, and then you can put it on any other permanent. So I
Hey.
would take my -1/-1 counters from my gargoyle and put them on my opponent's creatures to either
Yeah.
kill them or make them smaller. I could do this over and over again because every time it died, it came back with one and I kept getting to pull it off. As well as I had a couple rares that put finality counters on creatures that you pulled from the graveyard. And a finality
You
counter
could move that.
yeah, a finality counter says that when the creature dies, it gets exiled. But with nesting grounds, I just put those counters on my opponent's creatures,
Yeah.
and then I make them exile their stuff, and it was so cool.
That part's nifty. I mean, like in limited, usually exile versus death is not a huge deal, although in this
Mhm,
set, definitely more so than usual.
mhm.
But that's still pretty fun.
Well, there's a situation where my opponent had like a flying modular creature with a bunch of artifacts. I wanted to make sure they couldn't put their artifact or their counters when it died onto another creature. So I'm just trying to put finality counters on their modular creature so it gets exiled and doesn't die. It was so much fun. We didn't get a trophy with the deck, but we got really close. Um, and I just had just a blast. Like this set is so cool.
Yeah, it's definitely there's so much going on and it's super fun. I my first draft was like relatively straightforward. I don't feel like I learned a lot. I had kind of a lean Boros deck and I just kind of smashed everyone.
Hmm.
Mostly commons and uncommons. I had what's that guy you picked? The conduit
Oh,
conduit
Conduit
goblin? Is
Goblin?
that what his name? A
Yeah.
couple of those, and I was like, oh, Zach might have been right on this one. This card feels nutty, man. Uh, but it's obviously, early in the format, stuff like Boros can look better than it will later. or
Hmm.
it's always gonna look good in the early format that may not persist. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Um, but my current draft that I'm like, I don't think I'm doing well. I'm thinking 2-2 or 2-2.
Okay.
Um, it's like four colors, so it's Esper plus green. It's based in
Okay.
blue black, and then I'm splashing a couple of blue white cards. It's pretty much Esper, to be honest. And I have that Esper Commander was my first pick, and so that's what kind of led me down this path.
What is
And
the
then I
Esper
just
Commander? Wait.
I,
Oh,
I think
oh,
it's the
oh.
Commander.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. The human knight, the Arna, the like flying lifelink
Yeah,
4/4 thing.
Arnai, yeah.
Yeah.
4/4 flying lifelink ward, discard a
Hmm.
card. I was like, that seems pretty good. I'm gonna take that card. And like there's a lot of tri lands at common and stuff, so I should be able to
Hmm.
cast this. Um, and so I do have an interesting story about Arna, but yeah, I'm playing a ton of land, and then I got is it called the Necro Bloom? And I was
Yes.
like, well, that's just adding green to my deck. No problem. Let's jam that in there. Uh, and then I have blue white Genku, I want to say.
Oh
Of
my
the
God. What
That
the
card is
fuck?
nuts. That card won
Yeah,
me a
that
game
card
all
is
on its own.
that card is crazy.
That card single-handedly like won me this game where I was at one at several different points in this game while my opponent was at like 17, and I'm just sitting there making life linking rats and like blocking stuff. Like,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
that was a fantastic game. But the way that match actually ended was, let's see if I could get this right. So I had a 1/2 flying token from
Hmm.
my Kenku
Yeah.
that had somehow stuck around. And the I gave it +2/+2 in lifelink and flying with it already had flying, but whatever. I played +2/+2 in lifelink with the black white sort of dual
Oh,
lands.
Glasswing. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, which I like that card a lot.
Yeah.
I like this like really high upside on the other side of a land. We kind of talked about that last week.
Hmm.
Um, so my plan is to like beat them in the air with this big flyer that's going to grow because the counters and stuff can be very difficult for them to race. They hit a huge ground board, so I have to maintain it by like blocking, jumping with rats and stuff like
Hmm.
that. It's going to be a really interesting game. And then my opponent alkified my creature, which I don't know the name of this card either, but it is the elk that
Yeah.
is has bestow.
It's a trickster's elk. Yeah.
Trickster's elk. Okay. And so, but the thing is, my opponent knew that I had Arna in my hand because I had Gravediggered it back on the
Hmm.
previous turn. So they Trickster's elked my thing. And so I'm kind of sitting there for a moment being like, what happens if I attack with this with Arna on the battlefield? This has two auras on it that are both
Hmm.
going to get copied because Arna's ability, for the uninitiated,
Hmm.
it says whenever a modified creature you control attacks, double the number of each kind of counter on it. Then for each non-token permanent attached to it, create a token that's a copy of that permanent attached to that creature. So,
Okay. Yeah.
so I attack with my token that has the +2/+2 and flying and lifelink
Right.
on it. And it's a 3/3 elk.
Yeah.
And so what happened was they both get copied. The elk actually enters because the token is an exact copy as the creature. So I just got the elk creature. And
Right.
then the +2/+2 flying and lifelink got copied. And because that's going on after the
After.
elk, I now had a 7/7 flying lifelink that smashed them in the air. And a 3/3. My opponent just snap conceded. I was like, yeah, we got him.
That's so good. Oh my God, that's amazing.
I was like, I think that's what's gonna happen, but I won't
But
be like 60% sure. I'm just gonna play it and
let's
attack and
let's
see
just
what
figure it out.
I'll
I
let
love
Arena tell me.
I love those plays. The let Arena tell me what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because specifically, I've looked at this many times. It's because modified creatures have to be modified with something you control. So because you had the Glasswing Grace on there, that's why
Yeah.
you got to do the whole thing. Um, But
And I
that's
was
so
like, is
funny.
the elk gonna come in on top and nullify the flying and lifelink again? But then I was like, no, the elk's gonna be a creature, I think.
Yeah, it
But it
won't.
does say like it you make a copy permanent attached
Hmm.
to the creature.
Right.
Like it says that explicitly in Arna. So I was like, is the elk gonna be a creature? I think it's gonna be a creature, but
It'll be like
like
it
it
tries to
is
attach,
also
but
an
it's a creature,
aura.
so it can't, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you have to pay the mistake. Okay, that's great. That's so
So,
funny.
so I was like, kind of, I think I win, but I don't know for sure. I might just be attacking this creature into all of his big ground stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that would suck, but then I guess I would get a 3/3, I think, and they would also get a 3/3. I'm not totally sure how this is gonna play out, but
That's
I think I'm gonna win. And then you see like the thing hovering, you're like, yes, all right, we
yes.
did it.
We did it. Oh, that's awesome. I actually haven't seen Arna on the battlefield, or even in any pack at all. Um,
Yeah, it's been
so
good for me.
that's great. Yeah, that deck seems like commander centric. Like it's all legendary multicolored
Yeah, I'm
creatures.
even playing the white land that lets you search for historic
Oh,
cards because I have
that's
so many
cool.
of them. So I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll play
That
this.
works out. Which is so funny because I've seen that land go around, and I'm like, this is useless. What am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
So, and that's what I love about this set. It just feels like there's so much going on, and it's just a lot of fun. I've I've been really liking the modified decks. Like those are my favorite currently. Um, Probably because the first deck that I played was modified and it looked kind of crummy, but then it ended up playing really, really well. Um,
Yeah.
like cards that seem fairly kind of innocuous, like Hydra Trainer, ended up being pretty good for me. I don't know if it's probably going to change. I think Hydra Trainer in general, that's the one in a green for a 1/1 human warrior at uncommon, and when you attack, you can exert it and give a creature plus X, where X is the number of counters on permanents you control. It
Right.
also has adapt 2 and a green for adapt 2. Um, but that has been huge in certain matchups where I'm just like, all right, well, I just make all my creatures have adapt. All of them have counters from different things that I'm doing. And I end up attacking. Like I was able to attack with a Voltstorm Angel, which is like the thing you can give it like vigilance and lifelink and stuff. I attacked in with it and I exerted my Hydro Trainer and I gave the Angel plus 19 plus 19.
In draft.
In draft. It was busted, and they even like just chump blocked, but it didn't matter because I gained like I had 42 life. It was
Right.
crazy. I was like, okay, well, I guess I just win. Like I'm gonna do this again. So it was it's been a lot of fun. I think people have said that Lion Umbra. So this is a very Zach card. Lion Umbra is
Yeah.
100% my thing.
Hmm.
And I know that people are kind of throwing shade at this card. So Lion Umbra is green green for an enchantment aura at uncommon. It says enchant a modified creature. It says enchanted creature gets +3/+3 and has vigilance and reach. It also has Umbra armor, which means that if it would be destroyed, you just destroy Lion Umbra instead. The the
Card
thing
would
about
be
this card,
incredible if it didn't say modify.
yeah, exactly. So the big hoop that you have to jump through is that you have to put this on a modified creature. The thing is that so many creatures modify themselves with just like adapt,
Yeah.
and +3/+3 vigilance reach is a lot. Like it's a
Yeah.
lot.
Plus Umbra armor.
Plus Umber, which is huge because that's the biggest thing. Like, obviously, you're only gonna put this on a creature if your opponent can't just like instant speed kill it in response. And once you slam it, like they have to go through not just the giant creature, because often you can play like dumb 4 mana 4/4s that like modify into 6/6s that give all your modified creatures trample. That's like the ooze, the
Yeah.
temperamental ooze, and this just makes it a 9/9 vigilance reach trample. And it's just like I just love the big dumb Timmy stuff I get to do. And Lion Umbra
Yeah.
goes late because people don't think it's good. And I like it. I like it a lot. So
Nice. This is a card like I don't tend to like stuff that only makes your creature big and doesn't make it trample,
Hmm.
basically. Um, the price is right on this one though. I think if I
Hmm.
was in a modified deck where like all of my creatures are just gonna be modified most of the time, I would take this.
Yeah, it just seems like
But I don't think it goes in every green deck. Like
no. It
you
definitely you
you have to
well,
be almost all modified creatures always.
yes, you want it to be like a full modified creature, like that's what you're doing. All you want to do is like so modified is like the white green mechanic as well as the green black mechanic.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of cool, really interesting ones that like adapt is so helpful in this deck
Yeah.
because it makes it really it still makes putting +1/+1 counters on your creatures interesting because you're like, well, I want to pay the adapt first before I put other stuff on it. But a lot of the creatures have abilities that are like when +1/+1 counters go on the creature, you get to do an effect. But
Right.
you're like, so I don't get an ETB from this creature, but when I pay the cost, then I get an effect. Like the common one is the one that I like the most is the timeless evolutionary or something. I think that's what it's called. I don't have it right in front of me, but it's like the 3 mana 2/1, and you can pay one in a green to put two +1/+1 counters on it. And whenever a +1/+1 counter goes on it, you get to return a permanent card from your graveyard to your hand.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like a Ewit, right? Eternal Witness. Maybe it's Eternal Visionary, or maybe that's what it
Mm,
is. Something like that.
probably given that's a reference to yeah.
To Eternal Ewit, yeah. Anyway, so I'm gonna find the name in just a second. But that card is a lot of places. It's Evolution Witness.
Evolution witness, right?
Hmm.
Okay, it's a witness. That's
Yeah,
how they
that's
and it
evolution.
adapts, so
Yes,
that's why.
that makes sense. Um, but this card ends up being like, on turn three, if they play this 2/1, you're like, I kind of want to kill this thing before
Yeah,
they get to steal something back. Or you don't want to trade with other things first, or like that's when you're like, "Ah, if I use my removal spell on something else, they're just gonna get it back with this thing. So
right.
I have
Yeah,
to try to kill this first. And adapt is cool because you get to do it at instant speed, so it's a combat trick on a creature that like about. And
yeah,
most of them are adapt too, so you're like, damn, this is like they get beefy. Like they're not just like getting a counter. They're all priced
yeah.
really
I like onboard
aggressive.
combat tricks because
Hmm.
it just creates so much gameplay where you have to like force them to do it, or the threat of activation of the whole thing.
Hmm.
Like I know there's some feel bads when you block and it's just like, oh, that was on board. That sucks. But
Hmm.
um, when you're dialed in, it's more. These are really fun to have.
They are super fun to have around. The one thing I'm going to say is that obviously, if you activate this, your opponent can kill it in response before the trigger resolves, so you don't get the ability, as opposed
Yeah,
to ETBs or whatever. So just be careful for that. But you do get to play the cat and mouse game, which is one of the most fun things about Magic. Is like if I activate this and put it on the stack, they can kill it in response. So I have to wait for the time where it's right for me to activate it while they either can't do anything about it, or if they try to kill it, then I get to do it. Those kinds of things. That's what
yeah.
makes Magic really fun. Um,
And it's like if I try to kill it, they're gonna activate in response and get the
mhm.
value. Should I wait for them to tap out and take the damage?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. It's like, oh, if they attack, they're probably not. If I don't block, they won't activate it, and they'll play a creature. So then I kill it. All that stuff. Really,
Yeah.
really fun
My
gameplay with adapt too. Just adapt, I
yeah.
guess.
I played against an opponent who had a bunch of expanding oozes,
Hmm.
and I was like, that card's pretty annoying, actually. Like I kind of was whatever when I saw it in the draft. Like, yeah, all right. But playing against a bunch of them was very annoying. It's just like I have to kill this thing. Like I just
Hmm.
have to kill it. And I don't really want to kill it, but I feel like I
Yeah.
must.
Yeah, I think it doesn't have a super great win rate on 17 lands, but
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me because it's a little anemic. Like it's just a
mhm,
little not pushed, basically, is the way I describe it on those numbers. But
yeah.
when your opponent gets these going, you're just like, like they just attack. The math lines up where they're like adapt, it's a 4/4, and then attack, that's a 5/5. It's like
Yeah,
that's huge.
it's huge.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I also want to say like so the decks that I have enjoyed the most are the modified creature decks and the energy decks, which I already knew going into this whole format. Those were going to be the ones I like because those are the strategies I like. I like aggressive decks or things that like are just too big for your opponent to deal with before they can ramp into their stupid thing. Because I don't
Mhm.
like ramp decks very much or control decks. So I want to beat slow decks
Yeah.
very quickly. That's my favorite thing to do. Um, and I think the format is it's only like day 3 or whatever, but I do think it's slowing down and people are finding which cards are really important for those slow decks.
Right.
Um, so, but I will say the energy is really strong. It will run you over and like turn one, tune the narrative, which draws a card and gets 2 energy, into turn two, Amped Raptor, and then you just make sure that your whole deck is 4 drops or less, so you can cast whatever you get.
Pretty
Is
good. It's
pretty
pretty good.
good. It's pretty
Yeah.
good, especially when your opponent like does multiple amped raptors and just gets a bunch of free shit, and then they just like keep attacking you, and you can't really block because the numbers don't line up right, or they have first strike, but their mana's open, and like you're just like, ah, this is so hard to deal with, and there's a lot of cool energy cards that do a bunch of different things, but I think one of my favorite ones is actually the white blue one, the uncommon. That let me get the name of it, but it's the one. It's Emissary of Soulfire. So it's one white blue for a 1/4 creature, Jin
Mm,
monk. So
yeah.
when it enters the battlefield, you get 3 energy, and you can pay 2 energy at sorcery speed to put an exalted counter on a creature you control. I think I read this card wrong when I was first reading. I didn't realize it was like a full counter. I just thought that it got
Right.
exalted or something. I just saw
Right.
exalted and thought that it wasn't going to be really worth it. No, 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 no. This card puts an exalted counter on a creature. So basically, all you want to do is like play a bunch of dumb blockers on the ground, have one flyer that attacks in each turn, and you're just putting exalted counters on every creature you have.
Yeah. It doesn't give exalted like for the turn. It gives a
No,
creature exalted.
just just forever. And
Yeah.
exalted, if you don't know, it says if a creature attacks alone, every creature that has exalted gives it +1/+1. So
Yeah.
like it's not even your flyer needs exalted. It's like everything else needs it.
Right.
Um, so I got to play this in combination with Is It Generatorium, the other uncommon. The It's like blue and red, and whenever you gain energy, you get that +1.
Ooh.
And then whenever you if you've paid more than 4 energy in a turn, you can tap it to draw a card. So most of my turns were like make a bunch of energy, put 2 exalted counters on creatures, draw a card, play something else,
Damn,
attack you
yeah.
for 7 in the air. Like it was just like this is so good. I really like this. Like it wasn't the deck I was playing wasn't as like aggressive as some of the energy decks I think can be,
Hmm.
but it felt like I could just do anything I wanted. I was like, there's so many different avenues I can go down. There's so many abilities. It was really cool. So those energy decks are a blast, and I highly recommend them.
Yeah, I
Oh,
haven't played against a dedicated energy deck. I've played against a lot of stuff that like has some energy kind of going on, but it feels like
hmm,
they didn't get there. Um, I would love to draft a full out energy deck though that's really humming, you know. Emissary
yeah,
of Soulfire is great. That's one of the white cards in my Esper
hmm,
deck.
yeah. It's so strong.
Yeah.
Um,
And I don't even have a ton of energy. Like just on its own merit, I'm okay with it. And I can generate like a little bit of energy here and there. So if I get 2 exalted counters off this guy, I feel like I'm very happy.
mhm.
And I'm just pretty happy with it on its own.
Yeah. I think I drafted this early enough that people were just passing them to me, where I was like dedicated blue red energy, and then I got two of these, and I was like, oh, I think I should splash white for this card.
Yeah, let's sneak these guys in there.
I'm gonna find a way to put this in my deck. And you can splash really easily because of all the sweet fixing. There's so
Hmm.
much good fixing that doesn't even feel that slow or clunky. It just feels good. I don't know.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Because so, what's the deal with these tri-lands? Are these good?
I like them.
Hmm.
I think that you like from OTJ, we were kind of conditioned to like any desert that is like your color, even just like touches your colors you want to take. That's not what this is. You want to make sure that you can get at least the two of your colors with these fetch lands. Um, the upside is that sometimes you get to cycle it if you're doing the tricolor thing, but ultimately it just smooths out your hand so nicely when you're just looking at your hand. You're like, I
Yeah,
can cast my spells, and that's the the biggest like relief is like you have a bunch of these sack lands in your deck, having like three or four has just been really nice to smooth out your draws where you're just like, I don't have to worry about my colors. I have like a basic and a couple of these, I'll be fine. And then you just get to go from there. Even if you can't cycle them, obviously cycling them sounds like a great thing. And I've been able to find treasures and stuff to cycle them. But for the most part, I haven't been worried about whether I can cycle it or not.
yeah. I think I went a little too crazy on them. I was taking them all over
Mm,
the place in my current, draft that I have going, and it just feels like I am behind the eight ball a little bit. Like my opponents are often quite fast, and I'm sitting there like,
interesting.
I need to get double black because I don't have any Eldrazi stuff. So
Sure.
the colorless, I feel like you need some sort of Eldrazi stuff to feel really good about the colorless tap part.
Hmm.
Um, I think I just have like some pretty greedy mana requirements in double black cards and then
Yeah,
double blue cards and then
and like
Esper
triple
cards.
card, yeah, Esper Abzan cards. That's
And
true.
so I really do need to sack them to go get basics all the time so they feel closer to evolving
Evolving
wilds
Wilds, a regular land.
than some other people than in other decks they might be. But I still think they're pretty good, but I would play less of the I think I would just probably play the Esper ones
Hmm.
next time, not splash the green off them because now I have like some that get blue and green and some that get
Yeah,
black and
that
green. And
I will
uh,
say that this was pointed out on Twitter, but some of the Magic devs were talking about, like somebody had posted one of the cycling lands, the common ones, and said, "Hey, did you add cycling to this just so you could get the color pips on it? So it's a quality of life thing, so you can
I
see
do
the
love that
colors."
I can look at it right away and know what.
And they said yes, that was a very, very, very late addition. That one person was like, we should add color, like actual symbols, so that it's easier to look at.
Yeah,
So you can just identify, hey, this is the Jeskai one, this is the Sultai one.
that person is a hero because
Yes.
I don't think I've ever cycled one of these, but I
Hmm.
love in the draft just looking there and being like, which one is this?
Yes. I think it's fantastic. Like 100%. The cycling is just like kind of gravy. It's gonna piss off commander players because it changes the color identity of the card, but I don't care. It makes the
Whatever.
there. It's such a good choice for this draft. Um, it's so helpful, so helpul.
Yeah.
Even
Commander players play the lands that are actually in the colors that you are
it's true. You have a bunch of them.
playing.
They're really good.
Yeah.
Uh, I did want to say before we get to our pack zero pick ones, I played against a deck that I've wanted to build ever since.
Oh,
And
okay. Lay it on me.
it was it was really cool, but in the way that I'm like, so okay, let me just start off. We're playing against a blue black opponent. Right? I'm trying to do, I think at the time I was playing my energy deck, so it's not really extremely fast, but um there's a bunch of different things I could do. So I have a bunch of different ways to interact with my opponent, but they kind of like start slow, turn three, play Horrid Shadow Spinner, which is one blue black for a 2/3 creature horror at uncommon with lifelink. And when it attacks, you can draw cards equal to its power. If you do, discard that many cards. So basically, it
Mhm.
means draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards. On turn 4, before they attack, they play Buried Alive. Now, Buried Alive is 1 and a black for a sorcery. You get to search your library for 3 creature cards and put them into your graveyard. They search their library for 3 copies of Sneaky Snacker. So Sneaky Snacker is blue, black for a 2/1 fairy rogue with flying, and whenever you draw your 3rd card each turn, you get to return Sneaky Snacker from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So they turn 4,
Oh,
attack with their dude, draw their 3rd card for the turn, because the first card was the first card they drew on the turn. They return 3 Sneaky Snackers to the battlefield, and I'm like, that that what the fuck just
this guy's
happened?
playing Dredge.
Because I was like, this is just is it Phoenix, but like different and in draft. And if you know, Buried Alive in general just kind of feels out of place in this format. Like there's not a lot of like reanimation stuff. Like there's not like
There's
in
some,
OTJ it
but
would
yeah.
be like crazy, but in this it's just like there's not a ton of stuff you can do except for three sneaky snackers into your
I wonder
graveyard.
if they were in the draft, they had 3 or 4 sneaky snackers and saw this was like, hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I was thinking the opposite because Sneaky Snacker actually goes pretty late. Um, the Horrid Shadow Spinner doesn't. You have to pick that up pretty early, but
Sure,
Sneaky
I'm sure they
Snackers
picked that one up.
would go pretty late because they're common. But Buried Alive is also a card nobody really wants. So this deck is awesome. Like as long as you
Hmm.
can like continually activate the thing, so when your opponent, because then you can just block with the Sneaky Snackers or trade them off
Yeah,
or do
sneaky
whatever you want.
snacker's just good if you can draw 3 cards
Yeah,
consistently.
and so that was just like their game plan. And they had they had more than one Horrid Shadow Spinner because I killed one. So then it was just like, how do I deal with this army of 2/1s in the air
Yeah.
over and over and over again? It was really cool. And ever since,
Now I
whenever,
want to do that. Every time I see sneaky snacker now, we're like, "Ooh, is it on? Is it on?
is it,
It's
can I
good.
do it?
It's
Can I
just
do
like the
it?
mill deck in OTJ where you're always like, whoa, there's
Yeah.
the crab.
Yeah.
There's the hummer.
It's so cool. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the Demir Sneaky Snacker, like, is it Phoenix deck? Kind of got me because I do know I've seen some people playing Buried Alive in Timeless with Is It Phoenix,
Mm,
where they do the same thing where they just go at get 3 Phoenixes, throw them in the yard,
right.
and be like, all right, I guess we're playing Grixis Phoenix, and that's the name of the game.
I feel like you just don't need that at Phoenix though. Like the deck
Probably
is so
not.
consistent that you're just gonna have this 3 mana sorcery that is stopping you from casting 3 spells, right?
But I just love the big showy flashy thing. I've always loved Buried Alive, mainly because the art is so good.
Yeah. Buried
Well,
Alive is like an old school favorite of mine too, because I was a
mhm.
kid and I didn't understand why it was good.
Yeah, just like why would
And
you want to put creatures into your graveyard?
what?
Okay, so I
I
just
want to
kill
kill my
them.
own creatures?
Yeah, in
Oh,
my
from my library?
I take my best creatures out of my deck. That's stupid. Why would I do that?
What? Yeah.
Oh, it's what I put bad creatures in my deck, so I pull them out so I have a
Yeah,
better
so I
chance of
don't
drawing
draw
my
them.
good creatures.
Yeah. Pay 3 mana for that for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. Um, so yeah, Sneaky Snacker, sneak it up on my tier list. Pretty
Mm.
interested in that. Um,
You've just ruined so many drafts for me. I'm gonna go
I
off the
know.
deep end to try to make this work and not get there.
And what's going to happen is that deck that I played against, that was the one time it all came together.
Mhm.
And because I just didn't have removal for their 2/3 on turn 3. I just was like, oh,
Right.
okay, I have to like either I was fixing my mana or I was like playing like a 1/4. I was basically playing like my Soulfire dude that's like, I guess I just put an exalted counter on it, and then you attack
Yeah.
me with a 2/3 and I can't kill it. And I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, super cool.
I love that.
Lots of fun. Sorry for ruining more drafts of yours, but
So many drafts.
got to happen. Um, one more thing before we get into our Pack Zero pick ones because, well, it's all over the place, and I think everyone we have to mention it. Uh, there is confirmation. There is a mythic common of the set already confirmed. Have you heard of this? Do you know what I'm talking
No,
about? Okay.
I do not.
So the mythic common, the most winningest common of any set from the last like 2 years, it's got like a crazy, crazy win percentage on 17 lands,
Uh-huh.
is Writhing Chrysalis.
Ooh,
So
okay.
Chrysalis is one of the double colored um, commons. It's two red green for a 2/3 creature Eldrazi drone with Devoid. Says when you cast this spell, create 2/0/1 Eldrazi spawn tokens. You sacrifice them to get a colorless. It has reach and says whenever you sacrifice another Eldrazi, put a +1/+1 counter on Writhing Chrysalis. So this is like essentially a 4 mana 4/5 with reach.
With upside, yeah.
Yeah.
I should, maybe could have guessed this actually because I played against this in one of my most recent games, if not my most recent, the one before that.
Hmm.
And I was going to kill it, and I was like highlighting it, and it blew me away that it was a common.
Yeah.
Because I was just assumed it was like the signpost uncommon for red green or whatever. And I was like, wait, this is a fucking common? Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
I remember having that exact thought process as I was like hovering it to kill it with my removal spell.
Yes. It is I haven't seen it a ton. That's why it was like kind of surprising to me. But if we're just talking, we're going to talk about win percentages in well, actually right now. But of data on 17 lands, the most winningest cards of the set are Guide of Souls, which is a rare in white with 67.5%. Oscillate Pride, which is a mythic in white.
Hmm,
Those are both one
that
drops,
makes
by the way,
sense.
which is 66.5%. But tied at 66.5 is Writhing Chrysalis, which is a
Insane.
common, which is a multicolored common.
Yeah. Wow.
There were people on Twitter being like, "All right, I'm just gonna go to bed. It's at 60, like 62. That's crazy. It's gonna drop tomorrow." They wake up 66.5. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
so
I did beat this guy. It's not like I'm
mm,
beatable, but it was like I have to point my removal spell at this because this is huge. Like,
yes, it gets huge. There's a lot
and
of things to just spit out those Eldrazi.
yeah, and my opponent played some uncommon afterwards that it was like whenever you cast a Eldrazi or a colorless spell, you make a Scion. And I
Yeah,
was like, this
the
combo cannot be allowed to
mhm.
occur. Like this, which
Ye-
one do I kill? And I decided to kill this one because it already had a head start on counters. I was like,
mhm.
oof, but that combo was about to bury me if I didn't have a
Yeah,
removal spell.
there are definitely a lot of combos that do that, but just keep your eyes out for Writhing Chrysalis, and like red green. That's basically like the thing is I haven't played against a lot of red green decks in general,
Yeah.
but like, and I haven't seen this card very much, but I know it's exploding everywhere else. And a lot of people, either the decks that are playing it are crushing and nobody else is playing the card, or something. It's gonna level out. It's got to level out. Like there's no way it's gonna stay this high. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna level out. It's not a mythic power level card,
no.
but it is it's gonna be one of the top commons, if not the
Hmm.
top common. Like
Which, like,
it's a very pushed common.
it is, and it is spoiler alert, not one of the cards that we picked for a pack zero pick one. We
No,
missed.
totally missed it. I don't even think I read this card.
No, you did not.
Oh, that's because I forgot that I didn't realize that there were gold commons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, but Jeff, let's move on to that conversation. So last week we did a pack zero pick one where we picked the 8 most winningest cards. And we are talking about winningest. We're talking about game in hand win rate on 17lands.com. That is the kind of bit of data that most people use when they're looking at whether they think cards are winningest or not. Um, so we tried this thing out. I do have a disclaimer that when we were originally picking these, we were under the assumption, because I said so, that this whole experiment was only going to last like a week, and we would figure out how well your picks did after the first initial round of like data comes out. In fact, it is not that way. It is actually, it will be at the end of the format when everything settles down. So I may have made some picks thinking that it was just going to be the first week. So, oops, my bad. Uh, oops. Anyway,
Whatever.
um,
Now we get to see how things change as well.
exactly. But because of that, we did decide that we were going to look at them this week just to be like, well, just put a timestamp on this is I thought it was going to do this, and this is where it is right now, and then kind of go from there. All right, Jeff, let's get into it. I think this was really cool and really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so we have some. Almost all of our cards are different, which is pretty exciting. But I think one of the most exciting ones was our white discussion last week,
Hmm.
talking about the best white common. Um, so, spoiler alert, neither of our white commons ended up being the most winning white common,
Ah, okay.
which is pretty surprising to me. And the one that is, I am like really perplexed.
Okay.
Um, but I picked Hexgold Slith, and
Yes.
you picked Nyxborn Unicorn. For the main ones, you also picked Dog Umbra, so we're going to keep that in the category of white commons. We can talk
Sure.
all about them at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, but the winningest white common is Mandibular Kite, which is like the one drop that's a 1/1 with flying, has a living weapon, and then you can pay for to give another creature +1/+1 and flying after that germ token dies. I
Hmm.
did not think that this card would have a 59.1% win percentage. I don't know
I
if it's,
never would have picked this card. No.
yeah, I would not have either. And I think this is definitely in the realm of it's week one or week day three or whatever.
Yeah. Maybe, I
But
mean, maybe it's just the good white decks like to go wide, I guess.
I've played
I
this
don't
card
know.
before, and like giving something flying later in the game is pretty helpful.
Mhm.
But
It's very
in
expensive though.
it is very expensive. But when you're winning the game, it's not that crazy.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I am really surprised. I don't think this is going to stay here. And I don't feel bad that we didn't pick it at all.
I think this card's like pretty good, I guess. Like it's that got that good early, good late thing going on, but yeah, I'm very surprised that it's the top white common.
Hmm. Absolutely. After that is like Area Auxiliary, and then Thraben Charm, Solstice Zealot, which is the tapper, and then Hexgold Slith, which is like fifth
Wow.
down.
You got this way wrong.
Way wrong. Um, so Hexgold Slith got 56.2%. And then past that is Wing It, which is the like pump spell that puts a flying counter on something. Then Dog Umbra. So that's like, oof, that's crazy.
I did not too well on the white commons
No,
part.
Nyxborn Unicorn ended up being like bottom three, or third from the bottom, I mean, which
Hmm.
is crazy because that card's everywhere and it is good.
Yeah, like all right. I mean, it has 54%, which is
Mhm.
generally pretty decent
It's pretty decent. I
for a
think
common.
just some of these like numbers are a little skewed. I don't know if like the I don't know if it's like the beginning of the set the players are winning a lot because like the 17 lands users are crushing while everyone else who's not using 17 lands isn't crushing, and so then they're everything skyrockets. But
Higher win rates overall.
yeah, would make sense.
Hmm.
But yeah, I will say that I think it's a much tighter race between Nyxborn Unicorn and Hexgold Zealot. And Unicorn is one definitely the thing on turn four that you're like, Oh, I can totally block and brawl with their creature until they play unicorn. Then you're like, all right, now it's gonna be pretty annoying.
Yeah, I had them in my Boros stack. And I was like, I like this card. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's great. You
Yeah,
put it on your ground creature, and then you put counters on your flying creature, and it's just like so frustrating. Or I guess sorry, when I'm getting attacked by it. That's
yeah.
what been happening a lot to me. Um,
Um,
but it's so good when you get to do that. So anyway, I would say that Hex Gold Slith is everywhere. You see that a lot
yeah.
on turn two, but I still think that it's pretty close between those two. Um, though Thraben Charm is the removal where you get to deal damage equal to twice the number of creatures you control. I was in a matchup where I used the exile any number of target players' graveyards on both of my Thraben charms that I had.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Where opponent goes to like grave dig their creature back, and I'm like, exile your graveyard.
Nice. Got him.
Like that felt really good. So the flexibility on that card is actually real. Even though there aren't that many enchantments you want to blow up. It's mainly artifacts, but yeah. Anyway, moving on to blue. Um, I just want to say that yeah, I think you knocked this one out of the park. You were like 1 point behind, basically. Deem inferior is like the time ebb where you put a non-land permanent second from the top, or they can put it on the bottom
Okay.
or whatever. Um, which is a pretty good removal spell, and it's really annoying when somebody does that. But Serum Visionary, you picked this.
Yeah.
Um, Serum
Yeah.
Visionary, it's good. It's really good.
Yeah, I feel good about this one. Like I never had it. I don't have any in my deck, my Esper deck, unfortunately. But I've played against it and always been like, ugh, all right, all right. Like you do your thing. It's just a lot of value on a creature in limited. Um, but I wouldn't be too surprised to see these get shaken up a bit as time goes on. Um,
Yeah. I just want to say that Tune the Narrative, which is what we were talking about, is way, way, way down.
yeah,
I think it got super overhyped because it does nothing, basically. I
I
picked
think
Aether
people might
Spike.
just be playing it in any deck. Like we even talked about this, they might just be
Yeah.
playing it in any deck when it's really an energy card.
Hmm.
If you can't really use the energy, like you don't want to play cantrips and limit it really.
No, it's like they're just air. So I picked Aether Spike, which is the counter spell. It's just 1 point above Tune the Narrative, which is very middle pack. But I will agree that Serum Visionary was the pick. I think it'll shake out to be really close to that. I've been seeing it everywhere, and I want to play it every time I see it. So
Yeah.
that definitely gives me a knock of like, yep, nope, should have listened to Jeff.
All right. Black. Here's the one where I played this card and was like, I done fucked up. Like I have two of these in my current Esper deck. They always feel bad. I'm just like,
Oh,
it's always so slow.
yeah,
You almost always want to cast it for 4 mana, so it's just Gravedigger, and Gravedigger's just not good enough
good.
for the power level of this format.
Hmm.
Like Gravedigger is a good limited card 10 years ago in a normal set. Now it's like a fine limited card probably, and in the normal set, and in this set, just a bad card, I think. Um, I just have always had these in my like I seem to always draw them and it just reminds me
Oh.
you picked me and I'm like you suck, get out of my deck. And like yeah, it was pretty good that one game when I picked up my mythic rare bomb with it or whatever, but
Hmm.
I spent so long getting beaten down because I had this stupid 2/2 in my hand and everything else in my hand was expensive and I never wanted to take the turn to cast it,
Yeah.
and I never had the 2 extra mana to do this the non 2/2 version either. And I was just like, the flexibility on this card isn't enough to make up for the fact that all of the modes suck. So
Yikes.
yeah, I picked
Rough.
Gravedig. I think that, I mean, 51%'s got to be the worst black
It's
common.
it's the worst one, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
like
I
dead.
picked the worst black common, and I'm sure maybe it won't shake out the worst. Like, just looking through some of these cards, I could see some pretty suspicious black commons. So it's like there's still some hope that it doesn't end up worse than was that one I was looking at earlier. Where are you? Drossclaw. I'm looking at you.
Oh yeah.
Like, although apparently your white counterpart is the best common, so maybe I'm out to lunch. But Drossclaw was every time I see it, I'm like,
It's a two mana
what's
1/1. It's not
what's
really
2 mana for this? It's
mm,
crazy. Um, but yeah, there's no way Gravedig like even it can't even pass. It can't pass mid pack for sure. It's going to be one of the worst commons in the set, I think.
yeah. Yeah, it's rough. You
I
also
should have
picked
just picked the removal spell.
I mean you did. You picked Breather last for your other section. So that's what
I
I
should
picked
have
as
picked
well.
both of them. I should have picked Breathe the Last and Wither and Bloom, which I was thinking about doing, and then I got it in my head of like, oh, pick the value creature, and
Mm.
picked the worst fucking card in the set.
So I 100% just did not see Wither and Bloom somehow. I just like I
Oh,
opened
really?
it. I opened a pack in draft and was like, "Holy shit, this card's really good." How did I not see this before? I don't know. Um,
Yeah, I was like between those two originally, and then somehow talked myself into Gravedigger.
that's see,
But
and folks, this is what happens when you try to do these things. Sometimes you're
yeah,
like, "Oh, it'll be so easy. I just pick the good cards, whatever." You can talk yourself into a lot of stuff when you
yeah,
sit down and have to choose.
yeah,
Trust me,
yeah.
trust me. So, uh, it's some rough stuff. But Wither and Bloom, the one thing I want to say about this card, so Wither and Bloom is just a single color, and sorry, I'm saying this wrong. It's one and a black for an instant at common. It says target creature gets -3/-3 until end turn, and then you can pay one and a black and exile it from your graveyard to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control as a sorcery. The one thing that I think constantly about this card is this is Wither Bloom. This is like Strixhaven. Like, why does this have like the name? It's not like lore and hold. Like Wither and Bloom. It just seems like such an intense name that's like so magic based and it has nothing to do with Wither
Yeah.
Bloom. It doesn't gain life, it doesn't drain people, do it doesn't make pests, like it doesn't do Wither Bloom stuff. It just seems so strange that they would be like, "Oh, Wither and Bloom. Let's just throw that out there."
Yeah, that sounds totally new and not like anything we've ever done before.
Not the name of a house that we made in a magic set, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I will say the surprising thing with this is that Refurbished Familiar is the highest winning common, which is the like 4 mana 2/1 flying rat zombie that when it enters, each opponent discards a card, and if they can't, you draw a card.
Yeah, right. Has
It
affinity
also
for artifacts,
it
right?
has affinity for artifacts. Um,
Card's pretty good. I'm a little surprised to see it above the removal spells,
I
but
am as well. But it
this
must.
artifact decks are doing pretty well.
I feel like they aren't. I don't know. When I run into them, I'm like, okay, phew, I'm playing against the artifact deck,
Yeah,
not like
phew.
the
Playing
Eldrazi
against
deck.
red
So
black, which always blows unlimited these
yeah,
days.
hell yeah. Which like some of the Eldrazi decks are just like, what the hell are you on? How did you get this fucking thing?
I'd
What
like
is?
to make a request for Wizards that in at least some set in the near future, let's not make the theme for red black be like synergistic aggro, where it's like an aggro deck that only works if all
If
of the stars align, because I'm sick of that. It always sucks. It's always like the worst color pair.
yeah.
Because it's like, do you want to like win quickly, but only if you have the perfect draw and the other aggro decks just get good cards?
Mhm.
Well, do we have the deck for you?
Yeah, yeah. I think that red black hasn't been good since Adventures in the Forgotten Realms.
This is odd casting cost aggro.
Yeah.
They don't get 2 drops.
I'm looking at you, Obosh.
Yeah.
Uh, with that, let's talk about red. We were right on the money with red. Galvanic
Yes.
Discharge, like solidly the most
It's the least
winningest.
surprising thing ever. It's like
Hmm.
it's lightning bolt common.
Yeah,
So
super
with a
good.
little bit of upside actually.
Yeah,
In limited, it's mostly upside. There are situations where you want to go face, obviously, but
yeah. But for the next winningest common, Glimpse the Impossible, which is a card
yeah,
that
I
it's
somehow do you want to read it?
yeah, I'll read it. So it's two and a red for a sorcery at common. Exile the top three cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. At the beginning of your end step, if any of those cards remain exiled, put them into your graveyard. Then create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token for each card put into your graveyard. This way, you can sacrifice them to get a colorless mana.
Yeah. Totally
That.
missed this. I read Galvanic Discharge, was like, okay, well, there's the best red common. Let's keep
Mhm.
this simple. When I played against this card, I read it like 3 times because I was like, where's the downside in this? Isn't there downside on these things? Like, is this really just like a draw free and if you don't use them, get tokens? Really?
And then the cards go in your graveyard. They don't even get
Yeah.
exiled like they normally do.
Yeah, I had to reread this like several times and then I was like, let's just see what happens. And yeah, sure enough, they played something and got 2 tokens.
Yeah, and a lot of
Okay,
people just use this as like 3 mana get
three
3
tokens.
tokens,
Yeah.
and then next turn slam something huge, and you're like, well, that was a really good ramp spell. Like,
Yeah, it's like in red.
like red ramp. Like it makes sense because you only have it for a certain amount of time, but like, or you can only ramp once basically. But like,
Yeah. And it's, vulnerable.
yeah, but it doesn't matter if their ramp spell is like an 8 mana 8/4 that has Annihilator 2 or whatever. It
Yeah.
has protection
You only
from
needed to ramp
colors.
once. Like, yeah. Yeah,
Like,
this card is really good. I think I just saw this and I was like, oh, it's one of those kind of like impulsy, like kind
it
of
it looks like that. It's like, oh, I probably have to discard a card to
yeah, I
Volcanic
really have
or
to
something.
discard and then I don't get to use all 3 cards that
Hmm.
turn.
Yeah,
This yeah,
like, eh.
probably sucks. And then after reading it when my opponent played it, I was like, oh yeah, this is a high pick.
Hmm. Yeah. This is just like turn 4, hope to get a land. If you don't get a land, it's fine.
Yeah. This is like ancestral recall slash you know, what's the Hordling Outburst split card here?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know. Yeah. You're like emptying the Warrens or something. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, Glimpse the Impossible, super sweet. Um, Going on to green, we have some interesting ones actually, but you ended up beating me out by 1 spot.
Oof.
Um, we
Nice.
missed the top mark, which is Malevolent Rumble, which is the 2 mana sorcery where you reveal the top 4 cards of your library, put a permanent card from among them into your hand, and the rest go into your graveyard, and you create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn. Um, that ends up being like it's Seder Wayfinder, right?
Yeah, but the best common in limited? Okay.
That's showing you that these some of these Eldrazi decks are pretty busted. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe as things like even out, I assume that because of the that common, I assume Gruul is like the best deck in the format right now.
it's either
And
that or
so
like Teamer, it's a mix
right, and
of
so
them.
that's like lifting this up probably a little bit.
Hmm.
And as things average out, I'm kind of guessing this might drop a few ranks. Like it's a strong card, obviously, but for this to be the number one green common when it only kind of goes into that one deck.
It's definitely the kind of thing that's like if you don't want it, you don't play it, and if you do want it, you do play it and you win.
Right.
Which shows by win percentage. Um, but like the next couple cards, you picked Eldrazi Repurposer, which is the 3 mana 3/3 that makes a spawn when it enters and when it dies.
Yeah. Which goes in the Eldrazi deck,
Hmm.
but also is just good.
It is just good. And I picked Nightshade Dryad, which is right below your card, which also ramps.
Yeah, yeah, it's just really
Yeah.
good. Um,
So
yeah, Malevolent Rumble, I guess, is good in any deck because it gets any permanent
yeah, you
and
can
it
get
ramps you a little bit, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem on the same raw power level because you don't really want like you want the ramp in the early game, but you want the other effect in the late game. So I don't know. That's why I was saying it's good in the Eldrazi deck because you care about both in
Both.
the late game there. Um, so yeah, I guess I'm not surprised to see it high. I'm surprised to see it number one, especially
For
above
sure.
some of the other comments that that exist.
Pretty good. Like horrific assault, or like, I don't know,
Right.
any of the other commons that do things. Like Evolution Witness is so low, and I was going on a huge rant about it.
Yeah. I
But
think this is
it's
just one of those sets. It's just not like any set we've seen before where like
it's
all of these
not.
cards are just good. You know, it's like weird.
Yeah. In the multicolor uncommons, Writhing Chrysalis is obviously at the top because it's like the top of like everything. But
It's like
Sneaky
the best card
Snacker
in the
is
set.
right behind it. So that's pretty cool.
Okay.
We have to go down to slot number 4 for Conduit Goblin and slot number 5 for Cranial Ram, which are the two that I picked. They do seem weaker than I've wanted. I haven't been able to draft the actual Conduit Goblin deck that I wanted to draft, so I'm still waiting for that.
I drafted
And
that one. He's very good in that one.
yeah,
Had a couple of these bad boys in there.
so sweet.
But I was missing
Riddlegate.
the 1 mana moths, I guess. I should have been picking those.
Oh yeah, the mandibular kites. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but Riddlegate Gargoyle is right above it at seat 3, which is the one that gets energy and gives. It's a 2/2 flyer in Azorius. Gives you 3 energy, and when you attack, you can pay 2 energy and give something lifelink. Ends up being huge in a lot of these energy decks. Did not
Right.
realize how
Lifelink.
important it
Yeah.
was to. When I was playing this with the Exalted thing, it was like, and I gained 9 because I'm attacking
Right.
you
Yeah.
for a ton. Ended up being super important. But with that, it brings us to our last category, which is multicolor uncommon cards that we are picking. I picked pretty good. I picked pretty good.
Nice.
Um, the winningest one is Titan's Vanguard. That's the Gruul one. It's a Gruul Devoid Eldrazi. Um,
Right. Right.
so it's a 5 mana 5/5, and whenever you cast this spell, and whenever it attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on each colorless creature you control, and it has trample. Um, I wasn't thinking that the Eldrazi thing was going to be so great, but the fact that you get to just give all your science +1/+1, and then when it attacks, they also get +1/+1, so they attack as 2/3s. Like that's pretty rough. And then the rest of your deck is just get colorless creatures, get spawn, put them on the battlefield.
Yeah.
This ends games for you. But Scurry of Gremlins, that's the one I picked, is second, and that ends games
Hey.
too.
Nice.
So just the way I want it to end, not with the Eldrazi crap.
Now it's probably worth noting Gruul and Boros are probably pretty highly rated
Hmm.
decks at the moment. So
It will balance
this
out.
could balance out. I mean, both those cards are very powerful, so I would be
Hmm.
shocked to see them still at the top of this list, and but maybe not by as wide a margin, or things might still shift.
Yeah,
You might get number one in the end.
that'd be
So
great.
yeah, although looking back, that Gruul one is pretty effing strong. Like I played against it once, and I was like, what the fuck?
This is busted.
Yeah.
But Drowner of Truth, which is the one you picked, is further down the list, but it's mid pack, not too low as some other cards we talked about. I'm realizing now I didn't look up the other ones, but Emissary of Soulfire and Is It Generatorium are both really low on
Oh,
this
interesting.
list, which is surprising to me.
Where is Stump Stomp? Because I was very close to choosing that.
Yeah, so Stump Stomp is number 4. So that is
Ah, son of a.
yeah, so Stump Stomp is like the winningest MDFC
Ah, yeah.
uncommon.
Ah, almost picked it.
Yeah. Would have been good. Not as good as Scurry of Gremlins, but would have been good. So, with all that being said, that's just a long-winded way of me just trying to rub in a nice victory for myself.
Very solid victory, yeah.
Hmm.
But you cheated by having multicolor uncommon or multicolor commons.
Yeah, well, I just read all the comments. That's what
Well,
happened.
that's cheating.
Yeah. Anyway, Jeff came out to 452.6, and I came out to have 465.8 when we count up all the percentages. Um, Sweet, super fun. Had a great time
Yeah.
with it, and it's fun looking back at the data too. Um, it's a good I don't know leveler. It helps you keep connected to the format. I don't know.
Yeah. My big greatest disappointment is Gravedigg.
That is rough. Yeah, picking the worst one
That
is
would
pretty.
cost me like a solid 5 to somewhere anywhere between 5 and 10%. So
Yeah, yeah. That's if you just picked something else, that would have been a lot
yeah.
closer. Um,
I
oh
think I
well.
still would have lost if even if I
Mhm.
picked like the best black common instead of Gravedigg. But I did lose a lot of points on that one.
Yeah, that's all right though. I'm happy you lost a
Yeah.
bunch of points.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
that was super fun. I'm excited to do more of these in the future and to continue to do the Pack Zero pick
Yeah.
ones.
It'll feel so easy next time because, not every common will be in contention for every fucking color.
That's true. It will be a little bit easier, hopefully, unless Bloomborough just becomes like a modern power level set, and
Oh
then
yeah, it's gonna be Bloomborough. That's gonna be fun
mhm,
actually.
it
I'm
will
gonna
be
be so
fun.
biased on so many of my picks. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna
Bias
be like,
just
look at this like mouse. Why did
yeah,
I pick
this
that
cute. You
mouse?
got to pick this cute little guy.
Yeah.
He's a little friend. Um, yeah, seems like it should be a good time.
Yeah, was super fun. I'll get you next time.
You probably will.
And
I
I demand a recount at the end of the season. I think it might be slightly closer, but I still think you'll beat me.
I don't think Gravedigg is going to get much better.
That's the big problem. That's the huge problem. I think I might like close some gaps on Nyxborn Unicorn.
hmm
Um, that's pretty much it, I guess. But you might widen your gap on some of those multicolor cards. Uh,
Yeah, I could see some of the multicolored ones going down significantly, actually. So,
could be.
because
I
like
really don't know. It's my first
I
time
have
doing this.
exactly,
I
but
so rarely check 17 lands data
true.
this early. Like
hmm
I usually try to make my own opinions of the format by playing for 2, 3 weeks or whatever. And then I check it and cross-reference like, okay, what did I get right and what did I get wrong? So this is much earlier than I normally do this exercise where I'm like, my internal best common was this. Um,
Yeah, which is I don't know how helpful this actually is for this moment. This was mainly just an exercise to see what things look like and how crazy it's like. Why would this like some of those commons? We're talking about the green one, the malevolent, the ramp spell on two.
yeah.
That's definitely the type of thing you would be like, this has never been and will never be the best green common. Like it just won't.
Yeah. Like
And
in your head, it's always going to be like above average, but not the best.
mhm. And like this period of time, it is. And then it will change as we keep going through the format and
It's
get more
my
games and see.
hypothesis. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's cool. It's kind of fun. We will do it correctly next time, where we will wait until the end. Probably a part of a happy hour thing or something. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. They trying a little bit too early this time. Checking them out. Jeff,
It's a real Wild West when you check out,
it really
17
is.
lands
All
3 days
over
into
the
the
place.
format.
It's crazy.
It's like, what
Um,
was the best common? Are you sure? I mean, the
yeah,
best overall common. It's like, okay, that's pretty pushed
t-
card,
yeah.
but
Besides
usually by
that,
color, it was like, that one was the best? Really?
like,
Okay.
all right. But
Except red. Good old red.
just you need that removal. Um, well, Jeff, normally on a First Sips episode, we talk about worth a slots, cards we think that are worth a slot in your deck. However, this isn't a standard set. Normally, we talk about standard when we're doing that. And I think this time around, we can just talk about any other cards that we'd like to in this point. Things that we think are either like, hey, this is 100% a card that you can craft and you'll feel good about. Or, damn, I really wish this card will be in the metagame. I would like to play this in Timeless. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I would really like it to be a mainstay. I think that's fitting a little bit better. We don't need to do the whole first sips treatment, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I will say right off the bat, if you're crafting cards for Timeless, we've harped on this before, but Flare of Denial. Flare of Denial is just like, I think it's just the card that you shouldn't feel too bad. If you're playing a pretty heavy blue deck, don't feel bad about crafting this card.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll chuck Flare of Malice in there too, where it's
Mhm.
like, if you like playing black decks, this will find its way into sideboards at times when you just need a free way to kill something, essentially.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, this type of effect is just this is a really strong sideboard type effect, and getting it for free is going to be necessary in the format sometimes. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. I will say I'm pretty surprised with some of the land cycles that we had. I played a lot with Arena of Glory actually, which has
Okay.
been I keep getting it in draft and it's been super helpful. Like every once in a while you're like, "Oh, I get to have a sweet attack now because I get to exert and just play this creature." Um whether we can actually like have an aggressive deck in Timeless or not with this because it's not fetchable is the issue. But I would be interested in seeing if there's a deck that wants one or two of these in some of the aggressive decks. Um, maybe some of the domain strategies because you know you can get a mountain type out whenever you need. Just being able to have a hasty creature after a board wipe or after your thing was removed or whatever. Um, just slapping haste on random creatures ends up making them a lot stronger when you can randomly do it.
Oh yeah, haste is very powerful ability. I think it's like perennially underrated,
Hmm.
but it's one of, if not the strongest keyword, because like it's such a huge part of the game that creatures are balanced so that they cannot attack the turn they're played.
Hmm.
And when you're kind of cheating that system, it just feels like you're cheating.
Yeah. Which yeah, it's pretty funny. It's definitely yeah, haste is one of those mechanics where after the first turn, obviously it just becomes it doesn't matter anymore. It's just like words on the it could say devoid, it just doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Um but
I have had Devoid matter.
I've
And
also had it matter. I
I
was
mean,
just
mostly it's just from the stupid black spell that says you gain one life for each color it is. I'm like, it's no colors. Suck it.
yeah. Yeah, actually I was talking about that uncommon earlier. It's a 8/4 that has protection from all colors,
Mhm.
but you can use Fanged Flames to kill it.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's it's clearly deliberate, like
yeah,
the way it lines up perfectly too.
but like it means you have to play Fanged Flames, which is like kind of just worse than Galvanic Discharge. So
Yeah, but you don't always get the galvanic discharges,
it's
Zach.
true.
You don't always get them.
It's true. I know. I know. But yeah. What was I saying? I think a Johnny Nikado Pariah is sweet, and I would really like it to fit into Timeless somewhere. I get to play
Yeah,
this card. I love that it's a 2 mana 1/2, so it doesn't die to Bowmasters. It makes a 2/1 that you want to die, that does die to Bowmasters, because then you get to flip it into a Planeswalker. The backside is obviously very focused on like cats and like having tons of creatures and red permanents and things, but it is very strong still, and
yeah,
I like this one a lot. And I was kind of low on it when I was first like reading it or like just looking at it in general. I was like, it seems kind of okay. Um, I don't know if it's limited
yeah,
brain talking, but I like it a lot.
yeah. I mean, this card blew my mind because it was like a leak or something, and I thought it was a spoiler for Outlaws of Thunder Junction
Oh,
because that set was getting spoiled at that time or like revealed, and this was a leak. And so it was like new cards were being posted, and this one was just in there. And I was like, what?
What?
Like this card is so outrageously good. What are they thinking? And then I realized it said somewhere in the comments like Modern Horizons 3 is going to be a hell of a set. I was like,
Oh.
oh,
Well,
okay.
Jeff, you can
I could calm down a little bit. But
obviously it's not for Outlaws of Thunder Junction because he doesn't have a cowboy hat.
yeah, this was Reddit. It's just text. So I was like
Oh,
looking on
oh,
my
sorry.
phone and you don't see the card. Because sometimes I like that. Just read it and like uh it just saves so much like space and loading time stuff. So uh sometimes during spoilers, some of the Reddits I'm on only post text. So
Interesting.
I was like, what the I must be misreading this or this is miscopied or something because like this is way too good. And then I realized it was Modern Horizons 3. But you're right. I'd seen the picture, I would have known right away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not even the set symbol,
Just
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 the
the
lack
cow
of hat. Yeah.
lack of cowboy hat, lack of shirt, you know.
Yeah.
I guess no, Oko doesn't wear a shirt either, but that's funny. Man, the text list thing, I don't know if I could get behind that. That sounds so, or not text list. The opposite of
It's
that.
like, yeah.
Only text. Oh,
Were you listening?
pictureless.
Yeah.
Pictureless
I feel like you
previews.
could get behind text lists.
Textless. Textless. Hey, I mean, I guess textless spoilers are just like when they show you the product photos or like the art. You know, like, hey,
Yeah.
look at this picture. You're like, cool. What's the card do? You know.
Don't worry about that.
Uh,
Um, One thing that I'm hearing about is this Nadu card.
hmm.
Um, I don't know if this is for timeless or what, but the card is pretty pushed. So that's one green blue for a legendary creature, bird wizard, 3/4 flying. Creatures you control have whenever it becomes the target of spell or ability, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it on the battlefield. Otherwise, put it into your hand. Triggers twice each turn.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, this is like a really good effect for when you want to prevent your opponent from targeting your stuff. Um, Obviously, in a huge format, you'll have like hexproof and stuff like that, so maybe that's better. But the fact that this is stapled to a 3/4 flyer
3/4.
is no joke. Like this is already a 3/4 flyer for 3 with a very strong ability. So it's no surprise, I guess, to me after I actually read the card because I, kind of look at something like this and I was like, yeah, it's
Hmm.
a commander card. Moving on because you can't physically like read and process every single card.
Yeah.
Um, this one seems like it's probably worth crafting. You could play this if you like this card. You can. This is of the power level to compete in the format.
Yeah. It doesn't die to Bowmasters or Lightning Bolt, which is always like boom, boom. That always
Yeah.
happens when you're looking at cards. Yeah, a big thing with this, it is talked a lot about in the Commander community. Obviously, it's a legendary creature. So anytime there's one of those, they'll talk about it. But also, it's specifically looking at like um, equipment that costs 0 to equip. So Shuko skyrocketed in price because of this card.
Hmm.
So that people could like you just move your equipment around for 0 every turn, and you get to do the thing, and you ramp and you draw
Do
and
this
you
twice every
yeah.
turn. Yeah.
Um, so they're using a lot of people are using it for those types of things, or being able to target it with like abilities you can use multiple times. Um,
That feels like a thing you can do in Timeless, right? We must have some
Probably
equip zeros in there.
we have one. I remember looking it up. It's I remember it being like not a good card, but like we definitely have one artifact that is legal and timeless. That's just like a cook for 0. So yeah, it's a thing you could do. I don't know if it's going to be nearly as powerful as it is in Commander, because Commander, you're like, I always get to play this card on turn 3 or 2 or
Oh, for
whatever.
sure. Yeah,
Um,
definitely not.
but but yeah, definitely a possibility. Um, a card I really want to see played is a card that we talked about very early on, but Psychic Frog. I know I'm
Yeah.
kind of mad that it's not a Tog or anything. It's just a regular frog. But Two mana, 1/2. It deals damage. You draw cards. You can discard cards and put counters on it. You can exile cards from your graveyard, give it flying. I was also thinking um, the Psychotog could also be a fun card to play with the Nethergoyf. Because you like turn one Nethergoyf, turn two Psychic Frog. You can discard cards to pump Nethergoyf in
Mm,
combat,
yeah.
um, which seems pretty fun. And you get to draw them back with the Psychic Frog. You can give it flying by exiling stuff, but it also shrinks your Nethergoyf. I don't know if that's good, but it's kind of interesting. um,
Plus, if you play a bunch of madness, then you get
that's
to
true.
call your deck Crazy Frog.
Crazy Frog. That sounds fantastic. That's exactly what we want to do.
Are we building Grixis Crazy Frog?
I mean, we might. What are good madness cards that we want? That's something that we need to know.
Are there any
Um,
that are worth playing in Timeless? Like,
Probably not. Like, uh, no. I don't think so. Like, maybe if you're playing, I know that in Timeless there's like the Rakdos Burn deck, um, which plays that one like single black mana that make like basically drains your opponent.
yeah,
Um, so if we're doing that, we can play Alms of the Vein, which is a pauper card. It's a 3 mana sorcery. The target opponent loses 3 life, you gain 3 life, but you could madness it out for a single black. Um, but that
that's a little sus.
little sus. There's like too much vampire tribal stuff. We have Terminal Agony, which is like a 2 mana removal spell, but you if you don't madness it out, it costs 4. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything that's really worth it. There's there's Necrogoyf. You could play that. That's Modern Horizons. It's like a 5 mana, so 3 black for a star 4 with creature Lurgoyf at rare. And its power is equal to the number of creature cards in all graveyards. And at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player discards a card. And you could madness it for 1 black. So I don't know if it's
Yeah,
like fits into it doesn't it only cares about creatures. So like your Nethergoyf doesn't about
right.
cares about all different types of things. So having something that would actually you could play Kitchen Imp. Kitchen Imp would fit. It's like a 4 mana 2/2 with flying haste. Madness it for 1.
Yeah,
If you're
I can
playing
get
like
behind that one.
that
Yeah,
one, if it's like an aggressive flying deck, that works
yeah,
a little bit
2/2
better.
flying haste for one. I'm in.
That's much better. And then you just play Fiery Temper and
Yeah, but it's like Fiery Temper in a format with Lightning Bolt.
it sucks.
Like you really have to want to be discarding so you get the effect of the discard and the bolt, right?
That's
So
true.
it's
That's
like,
true. You can play Blazing Rootwalla. That's the single red for the 1/1 that madnesses for 0. So
okay, all right,
Madness
all right.
0. That's good. I
Yeah.
guess it's just yeah. Anything that's Modern Horizons, be like, oh, we could play this card. Anything that's not Modern Horizons, you're like, I can't play this card.
No, yeah, yeah.
That's funny.
Maybe Fiery Temper.
Yeah, maybe Fire Temper as like a fourth and fifth Lightning Bolt. Or sorry, fifth and sixth, not fourth.
Why
Fourth.
we've only played 3 bolts, I'm not sure, but
Sorry.
I'm in.
Uh, but I kind of like that. Would like it to be closer to like blue black than Grixis, I think. But Blazing Root Wall you could play for 0, so that's fine. Though I guess you need copious amounts of red mana for it to be good because you want to pump it.
Yeah, but keep the frog in your back pocket for when they print
Hmm.
more Madness cards.
That's true. And Modern Horizons 4.
That's right. Madness is back.
We've gone crazy with these cards.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
man.
One card I like and have a gut feeling may not get there, but would love to see it in Timeless is White of the Reliquary. This is just like type of card that I love. Black green for the 2/2 vigilance gets +1/+1 for each creature in your graveyard, and you sack a creature, another creature, search your library for a land. Yes, love this. but generally speaking, like this asks a lot of synergy from you that your deck is really operating together and
Yeah.
greater than the sum of the parts kind of thing going on here. And usually in these old formats like Timeless, it's just getting raw power level on tends to be more effective.
Yeah. Which is kind of a bummer. I think this card is pretty good too. Was funny. I was playing against a deck in draft that had it, and I was like, "Oh shit, this card's gonna get huge and destroy me." But they were doing so many synergy things where they were pulling things out of their graveyard that like it was
They
never.
kept making it
Yeah,
weaker.
it was like a 3/3 almost all the time, and I was like, "Oh
Yeah, playing a
okay,
bunch of grave digs that like in the
yeah,
graveyard don't trigger this.
yeah." I was like, "Oh, I'm not really worried about this at all, actually." Okay,
Yeah,
and then they would sacrifice the creatures. I was like, "But you're taking it back out. I don't really care. That's
attacking
okay."
a token. Yeah,
So, but no, it does seem super cool. Would like it to get there. It would be nice if there was a lot more synergy based stuff in Timeless, but we do have a
yeah.
lot of just raw power level. Um, a card that I would be so stoked to play, but just feel like I can't is Ocelot Pride.
Mm, yeah.
Ocelot Pride is just a single white for a 1/1 creature cat at Mythic. It has First Strike and Lifelink and Ascend, which, if you don't know, it basically gives you the City's Blessing if you have 10 or more permanents, and you have the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. So at the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, create a 1/1 white cat creature token. Then, if you have the City's Blessing, for each token you control that entered the battlefield this turn, create a token that's a copy of it. And that's any token, not just creature tokens. Um, Super cool way to just go really wide. It activates on itself. It helps build its own ascend just by attacking. It can attack into a bunch of stuff because it has first strike. It just has one toughness, which makes it really difficult to play and hope
Yeah.
that it sticks around. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot for a one drop. So you need, but you need some sort of, cheap creature white deck to be good.
Hmm. Yeah. So it's definitely strong if unchecked, but other than that, I mean, like, if you make clues or food or if you make treasure tokens, whatever, it doubles all of that if you have the city's blessing. So,
Yeah.
um,
Maybe when they ban Bowmasters, you can
yeah, as soon as Bowmasters is gone, this is great. Also, like Ocelot Pride into like any aura. I'm like, hell yeah.
yeah,
Um,
that
maybe I just,
surprise me.
yeah, maybe I just play this on two instead of one, something like that. But then it just gets Thoughtseize out of your hand. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, there's no stopping it.
I know.
Or they thought sees you and don't take it. You're
Ah, no. Is my deck bad?
like,
So, so yeah. Um, though I do think a card that goes well with this card is Guide of Souls, which is just a single white for a 1/2 creature human cleric at rare. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life and you get an energy counter. And then whenever you attack, you can pay 3 energy. When you do, you put 2+1/+1 counters and a flying counter on target attacking creature. It becomes an angel. Um, this card could do some work though.
this is a Soul Sister if I've ever
Yeah,
seen one. Holy
this is a
cow.
great Soul Sister.
Yeah. Is Soul Sisters a possibility in Timeless? Because
I
this,
think so. We could definitely play Soul Sisters. This one's good. The other ones would just be gravy. And
yeah, this is like number 1 through 4 for sure.
yeah,
You have a lot
I
of options too. If you want to go green white, you can start playing some innkeepers and you can do some stuff.
you could do some stuff. I do think that Soul Guide, or sorry, Guide of Go Soul Guide Lantern, Guide of Souls
Yeah.
might go into the Primal Prayers deck that we had talked about a couple weeks ago,
Mm,
which we're a big fan of, or maybe last week. I can't remember. Um, so there's a possibility of something in there, something sweet, just flooding the board with a bunch of stuff.
yeah.
Um, sounds sounds great to me. Anyway, I just think that there's a lot of stuff going on in this set and in Timeless in general. Uh, but yeah, Jeff, do you have any final cards or final thoughts before we get to our last call? Talk about this beer.
Yeah, and I think my final thoughts are just like I don't have a ton of experience with the format yet, but it's been a fun limited format because it just feels like everyone's doing something different all the time and like there's so many interactions to discover.
Hmm.
So I was curious what my first experience with a set of this power level and actually drafting it would be. And so far, it's been pretty positive. Just seeing what other people are drafting is always like, whoa, that's cool. That's cool. And that one's cool.
Hmm.
And it already has that feeling of slightly different from limited formats where you're saying, oh, that's a good version of this deck that's
Hmm.
archetype. It's more like, whoa, that's doing something totally weird that I wasn't expecting. And it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I I've seen a lot of really crazy stuff. I've seen like a full straight up control deck, like multiple board wipes and like all this shit. And I was just like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is happening? Um, so you never really know what you're gonna get, especially when you're playing against Jeff's like four color Legends deck.
Yeah.
So
Like searching up Necro Bloom with my land.
so yeah, there's so much more to unpack with Modern Horizons 3, and I've been enjoying the format so much more than I thought I was going to, that everything just feels great right now. So super
Yeah, it's
happy, super
it's like
stoked.
Cube is halfway between limited and constructed or, whatever.
Hmm.
Feels like halfway between regular limited and Cube in a
Yeah.
sense, where it still feels like limited for sure. It's not
Hmm.
like you're not playing against combo decks and stuff, but you definitely get this sort of cube-like synergistic thing going on where you can get some pretty powerful synergies in your deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, Jeff, let's go to last call. Let's talk about this beer we had this evening. Guinness's 0% beer, or 0.05%, as we actually be more accurate.
Yeah.
As always, we rate these beers on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. But don't think that we're throwing any shade your way. This has nothing to do with what tier you are in currently. It's just a fun way to rate beers. So don't feel bad when we say that bronze beers are trash. They're horrible. You have to spit them out. You pour them on the ground, and you stomp on them. They're disgusting.
Yeah. Silver beers are just bad or boring. So macro brews or just not your favorite micro brews.
Hmm. Gold beers are fine, but you probably won't drink it again.
And platinum are solid. You will drink it again.
Diamond beers are exceptional. You will drink these a lot, and you show them off to your friends.
Mythic, best of the best. You would recommend these to anyone who will listen. These are the chrysalis, whatever of
The
the
writhing
beers.
chrysalis.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, I'm not gonna remember the name of this card.
that's fine. I will say with this specific ranking, it's gonna be a little bit different just because obviously it's a non-alcoholic beer, so it doesn't, it has a little asterisk next to it.
Yeah.
But Jeff, I want to know what you thought of Guinness's Zero, Guinness Zero, this non-alcoholic
Okay.
version.
So I poured it. It looked exactly like a Guinness.
Hmm.
I tasted it. I wouldn't say it tasted like a Guinness. For me, I don't know, the body was wrong. Like I
Yes.
took one sip and I was like, it's too thin. It,
Hmm.
it tastes like a just a liquid, like water or something, right? It's very thin. The flavor was okay. Um, but that's the thing that struck me is I was expecting this like body behind a stout, and I got something that's a lot thinner than that. But it was decent. My main criticism of non-alcoholic beers is usually there's this weird yeasty thing going on
Hmm.
where whatever they do to replicate that kind of flavor just isn't right. I didn't really get that with this. I didn't get that weird like I kind of think of it as like an aspartame to sugar kind of thing. It's like whatever they're
Hmm.
doing to try to get the yeast effect here has its own kind of aftertaste that I don't care for.
Yeah.
And this one doesn't really have that, I don't think. So it was pretty good. But if you put this side by side with the Guinness, I'm very confident I would tell you which one's which.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with all the things that you said. Um, and the reason I've liked this one, yes, the body is much thinner, which is also a thing that I've noticed with other non-alcoholic beers, I think. They just
Yeah.
like there's something that they do that makes it so it just doesn't have the same body.
Hmm.
Um, but exactly what you're saying. There's no weird aftertaste that doesn't. It still has like a Guinness type of aftertaste, like the some of
Totally.
those notes are still there. It just is obviously like it's missing all everything in the middle. Like it's just kind of like gone.
Exactly. Yeah. And the flavor, like what is there is a bit Guinnessy, like you get
Hmm.
that. But yeah, that middle part where you're just like, oh, that's I feel like I'm drinking water somehow
Yeah,
at this
and
part.
you already drink it. I already feel like Guinness, as far as stouts go, is like pretty light,
For
and you can
sure.
drink it
Yeah.
very easily. So these are just crushable, like
Yeah.
so crushable. Um, but with that, I like these. Like I do a lot of the non-alcoholic beers that I'll kind of like point people to are the ones that are made by big companies because they tend to be pretty, except for Budweiser's. We'll have to taste Prohibition again because it's last time I had it was just atrocious,
Yeah.
like just absolute swill.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
so,
kind of my memory as well. I remember the advertisements at the time were just
mhm,
like all Budweiser, none of the alcohol, all of the Budweiser, none of the alcohol or something. I'm like,
mhm.
whoa, it's like the worst of both worlds.
Yeah,
Why would I want that?
yeah,
I've since like my opinion of Budweiser's improved a little bit since those
since that
ads,
that
but
yeah,
and
um,
my understanding of why you would want an alcohol-free beer is also, you know,
changed. Yeah.
gone up. So I'm willing to give it another shot, I guess. But
So, but yeah, I think with this one, this is probably higher on my list of non-alcoholic ones. I can actually drink these and actually enjoy it, even though it's obviously I know it's not a beer.
yeah,
Not a beer. I mean, it's not really,
yeah, it's okay to say it's not a beer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As opposed to ones where you most of the time have to kind of choke them down a little bit because you're trying to do something and it just feels unfinished or like
yeah,
there's something happened and I don't know what it is and I don't like it
right.
very much.
Totally. Yeah, completely agree. I think I'd probably give this one platinum. Like I'd drink this again. Yeah.
For sure. I would definitely drink this again. I would probably recommend this to anyone who's looking for something specific like this.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't really know if that really
If
means.
someone was like, "Do you have a good recommendation for an alcohol-free stout?" and for some reason has not tried this one, I would feel like,
Have you
try
tried this one?
Guinness. Like, but
Yeah,
I just don't really see that happening. But
I
yeah,
think if people in general are talking about non-alcoholic beers, I would probably bring this one up.
yeah, that's
Um,
true.
so that probably makes it a little bit more diamond, but ultimately, I'm just gonna buy regular Guinness, um,
Yeah,
for the
it's
most
light
part.
enough, right? It's less than 5%, I think.
Yeah, it's 4.2.
Yeah.
It's basically non-alcoholic
This
itself.
is this is just Guinness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, pretty good rating for Guinness Zero. We'll see if other ones hold up as we do venture into non-alcoholic beers over the next few weeks or so. All right, let's go to closing time, Jeff. Let's
Let's
wrap
do
this
it.
puppy up. As always, you can reach us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram.
You may also find us on Arena itself with the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me at Zulberg. That's Zulberg. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and on Twitch, I'm regular_Zach. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Best place is our Discord channel. I'm sure we'll be sharing lots of deck lists, lots of trophy wins in Modern Horizons 3.
Yeah,
And you know what? Might even throw some not so hot deck lists in there for you. If you want to be a part of that discussion, come on by. The link for that is in the show notes, and I'll be regular Jeff on there.
that's right. Also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, follow us on Spotify, leave us a review there. Go to all the different places, click all the different stuff. Means a lot to us and helps out the podcast a ton. But the most helpful thing you could do is just if you like us, share us with your friends. Let them know that you like this podcast and we can grow a community together. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that when you're drafting Modern Horizons 3, don't take Gravedigg. Fuck, it sucks.
Good night. All right, that's fine.